Hello everyone. So today we're going to talk about legal tools that we can all use that are very simple and for the large majority actually free for you to use to create a seamless nomadic lifestyle. We're going to break this down today into 4 different components. First, we're going to talk about creating a legal foundation. Then we'll talk about compliance for your business and yourself when you and yourself are abroad. Then we'll talk about protecting you abroad. And then lastly, we'll talk about local laws and what that actually means for you. But first, a quick disclaimer. I am a US licensed attorney, but unfortunately I'm not your direct attorney, so I cannot answer or talk about anything specific to you or your legal issues. So all of this is just for general informatic purposes only. So first we're going to talk about establishing a strong legal foundation. We're going to want to form a legal entity. I know we've heard a lot this week about forming LLCs. What does that even mean? An LLC is something called a limited liability company. What that means is when you yourself, I, Brittany Peck, create a company, we can call it the company. That creates a shield around me, a corporate shield that protects me from unneeded lawsuits. So say, for example, someone in this audience is like, I don't really like that girl, I'm going to sue her company. Okay, that's fine, we can let the courts decide that. But what we don't have to worry about is me and my personal assets will never be touched as soon as I have that limited liability shield that protects me around it. You can think of it like a superpower, or you can just file in 15 minutes and never think about it again. There's many different jurisdictions you can do this with. As we all know, the United States has 50 different states, which means there's 50 different solutions to having an LLC in America. But there's also other jurisdictions around the world, like the country of Georgia, the country of Estonia, and the UAE, that also have very strong legal protections once you create a limited liability company. I know many people hear lots of buzzwords going around. What's an S Corp? What's a C Corp? What's a PLLC? At the end of the day, those are all just different tax structures. What you really want is that limited liability shield. Anything else after that, you can discuss with you and your accountant or adjuster, and you can worry about that later. The number one priority is to create a legal shield for you and your business. You're going to want to separate your business and personal assets. So if you go out drinking with friends, in no circumstance, unless it's work friends and you're working with clients, if you have drinks, that should, in most countries, should never be on your business credit card. What on your business account should be is if you use ChatGPT Plus, right? That's €20 or USD a month that you can use for your business purposes only. So you really want to separate that. You want to get into the habit of, if you choose to carry a wallet, you'd have your personal card and your business card. Make sure that every single business account purchase is in that business account that you have. That way, when it comes time for taxes, or if you get audited, or if you get sued, you can simply pull up your online banking and then you can go through the list of what business purchases are. You really want to make sure, the key word here is not to commingle funds. You never want to commingle your personal and business funds. If you're worried about how do I pay myself from my business account to my personal account, you can worry about that later. But number one priority is to never commingle those funds. So as we were discussing before, you really want to limit your personal legal liability, especially when you're dealing with cross-border disputes. So for example, if you're based in the United States of America, you choose to digital nomad wherever you want in the world, and you're going to be sued by someone, say, in Canada, what they're going to look for is, does this person have a business? Does this person have an entity? Anytime you register a business, no matter where you are in the world, even if you use a service, you have to have an address. So whether that's your personal address, it's your mom's address, it's your friend's address, it doesn't matter. It's called a nexus. So the nexus is where your business is located. So the physical address is where you would then, if you have a lawsuit, hopefully never in your life, hopefully never to anyone in this room, but if you were to do that, that is exactly where it would be. So this limits your legal liability. And this also creates very clear boundaries between you and your work. Every single business decision should be ran through your LLC, meaning if you have an email account, it's okay to use Gmail. Make sure you have your business name, and if you want, you can even put your business name in an LLC at gmail.com. It's to limit your legal liability. If there was ever an issue and you do end up having to go to court, a court, no matter where you are in the world, wants to see you using your business LLC. You also will enhance your professional credibility. More likely than not, whether you're a freelancer, whether you write journal articles, whether you take TikTok videos for a living, you really want to enhance your professional credibility. So when you're emailing or discussing with a potential client, they're going to not want to see your first name, last name. They're going to want to see your LLC. It creates professional image for you and it protects you. So really it's a win-win situation. This also enables efficient tax and legal compliance. So where you are in the world, we'll discuss tax issues a little bit later, but this also creates a space for you to have deductions. Deductions are anything that's fit for a business purpose. Every country is going to have a different definition of that. America is very, very lax, I would say, with business deductions. And this creates an easier way, especially if you're applying for digital nomad visas, a way to prove that this is your business income. As again, we're discussing, you should never be commingling funds. It should be very easy for you to look at the bank account balance in your business account and see, okay, a client just paid me, but I also purchased some subscription this month, and it should always be clear to you what's your business account. This also helps to create streamlined invoices and contracts. You always want to send an invoice with your LLC name. Under no circumstances should you only be using your first name, last name, and then to the client. You always want to create what's called a paper trail. Everything is a paper trail. So if you email a client, that's a paper trail. If you send over a contract, that's a paper trail. It should always have your LLC name on it. Hopefully more than once, but just once is okay as well. So tax and residency compliance can be navigated. Know where you're a tax resident. As we've discussed many times this week so far, usually for most countries it's the 183-day rule or 181-day rule. Definitions vary depending on the country. However, as we've discussed before this week, tax residency is not the same thing as citizenship. So even in your business, you may be a tax resident in one country, but then you yourself are physically present in another country. So what we're looking for is the center of vital interest. So for example, the country I live in currently, Spain, looks at things like, do I have a gym membership? Every single month, does money pay for some sort of membership where I'm physically located? When you potentially get audited for taxes, this is super important because you, again, want to understand where you're a tax resident and where your business is located. There's a lot of bilateral tax treaties, including the foreign income exclusion exemption for the United States and other countries. And different types of treaties can determine which has tax rights. So this is going to be my 1-minute spiel on using AI. I know we're all very excited in this audience to use AI, but what you should never be using AI for is legal advice, ever. Pay the $200, pay the €200 to get a qualified lawyer to check out you and your situation. AI, unfortunately, does hallucinate laws. Every single time I've played with it, it creates its own laws when there's no answer. It creates different pathways, you could say, to creating whatever you want, right? So if you type in the ChatGPT, okay, I want to live in Spain, but I don't want to pay any taxes, it will create a plan for you, but that's not legal. You can never rely on ChatGPT. I'm not saying you're going to go to jail, but you could get fined thousands of euro when you could have just paid €200 for a tax consultation. You want to also select the right visa or permit for your work. What you don't want to end up doing is having in-person contacts when you're in a country. That is working illegally abroad. Digital nomading is one thing, but once you create an in-person connection in a different country, you are illegally working abroad. And that's very important that you don't want to show that on paper at all. You also want to track your days and document your location wherever you are in the world for tax purposes. No matter what country you're coming from, it's important to track your days. I'm going to be very honest and very embarrassed at this moment. At my bright age of 31, I have zero idea how to use Microsoft Excel. I don't understand the cells, I don't understand the functions, I don't get the math behind it. I just choose not to use that, and I will go onto a Google document and simply list, okay, today I'm in Bulgaria for 10 days. It's very important to record this. It's vital. You cannot always rely on Ryanair tickets because, for example, if a Ryanair flight gets delayed for 3 hours and it puts you over midnight, that's an extra day. If you get audited or have tax issues, that extra day that you did not record could potentially cost you thousands of euro. You want to consider hiring international tax experts. There's many different platforms these days. I believe Tax Scouts is a big one, but you can always Google and ask Google where to get tax information for that country that you're coming from. This is especially important that have multiple assets, whether it's cryptocurrency or you're investing and you also have a business and you also have multiple residency. It's really worth the money to just pay an expert. That's their job. Your work and assets need protection. You want to copyright your content, software, or media where it's applicable. You're probably thinking, what on earth is a copyright? Every single day we see copyrights. When you open up your iPhone, there's copyrights. The copyright is simply a C with a circle around it. That means that this work is from somebody else, and that can be for you as well. So if you put up a YouTube video, and you don't want your YouTube video to be plagiarized across the world thousands of times when you worked really hard on it, you can simply copyright this content. There's also trademarks. So trademarks is a very lengthy process. The large majority of people around the world will use the United States trademark system. You're looking at, currently, as I checked it this morning, about a 9.5-month wait. So these are not simple, easy processes, but they are important. That way no one steals your work, no one can plagiarize your work without repercussions. You want to also use contracts for all your client and partner work. I personally am a contract lawyer, so this is amazing that I get to get up on a stage and talk about this. But every single work, every single dollar or euro you earn should be behind a contract. What is a contract? It basically is a legal letter saying, hi, my name is Brittany, I will be working and doing this for you. So you really want to focus on the who. Who is performing the job? So again, you put your limited liability company, your name will be performing this job for your client. Then you would describe the client. Who is the client? Are they a company themselves? Are they, maybe a partnership manager through the company? You want to be very clear and specific when you're writing contracts. That'll help you to discover who you're actually working with. Then you want to put the what. There's something called contract scope. I'm sure, especially as a lot of us are freelancers, people will say, yeah, this is good work, but what if I had this extra question? If that's not in the contract, then you don't need to do that. You signed a contract to do the work as described, not work as it comes up. Then you want to put the where. If you're working in person, it's critical to put the where. That way you understand, okay, I actually do need to be on site for this partnership contract. If you're a digital nomad, you obviously don't need to put the where. But the critical point here is to describe everything. That way your client cannot then turn around and ask you to do extra work that is outside the contract. The most critical component outside of putting your LLC on a contract is to sign it. It doesn't matter to me if you print out the contract and sign it like physically who has a printer anymore these days anyways, but you can sign it personally with a blue, black ink, it doesn't matter. I personally use DocuSign. I think it's well worth the $15 a month to sign, and it has an electronic signature on it. People use Adobe. I believe there's many different ways that you can sign a contract, but a signed contract is essential. You should never be starting your work as a freelancer or a business owner until the signatures have dried, is what we say in the legal world. Both signatures must be on that contract before you start work. Otherwise, none of these protections apply to you. It's just an idea. You also want to secure insurance for work and travel. You want to consider professional liability insurance for freelancers and consultants. Some fields, like myself, it's highly encouraged to have it. Other fields, perhaps if you're a journalist, you don't necessarily need professional liability insurance, but it's still worth the question. That way, no matter where you are in the world, your work is protected and you are protected. Health and travel insurance is also important for long-term stays, and a lot of nomadic visas these days also require you to have health insurance. You want to store your business documents safely and securely. To be honest with you, I have no idea how all these cloud services work. I don't really get it. Where's the cloud? What if it's a sunny day? But what is important is that you have a system to keep all your files and documents. I myself love Google Drive because I can create all these folders and subfolders until my heart is content. What's important is that you're keeping every single one of these contracts. Even if you finish the work for your client, you got paid, it's not the end of the life cycle. You want to keep that contract in a space where you know you can find it. So that means you don't want to print it out, put it in your, where you stay for one day of the year while you repack your bags. You don't want to keep it there. You want to keep it where you can always keep it accessible. This also helps when you're looking to prove income for different visas. You can say, okay, this client paid me, 1,000 euro last month. It's very important to keep backup copies of essential legal and financial records as well. For example, a lot of these nomadic visas require you to have health documentation or a birth certificate. Just take a quick picture when you're back at your home base and keep it again in a cloud-based storage. You want to also protect your online presence and reputation, and you want to monitor your brand usage. An example of this is to set up a Google alert for your full name, your business name, and anything that's related to your business. That way, if there's a nefarious or a bad article written about you, you can immediately take action versus finding out about it weeks later. You want to also secure key domains and social handles. Something I really appreciated from one of the talks earlier this week was talking about if you like your finished product, it's already too late. The same exact thing with the domain name. Chances are, if you have an idea for this domain or social media handle, somebody else has already thought about it. Domains are very cheap. They can be as cheap as $5 per month. Just get the domain name, and if you choose not to go on that business venture, then you can just simply stop paying for it. And I was previously talking about using alerts to really set you up for success. That way you're the first to know. When you're the first to know a potential legal problem, then you most likely will come out ahead. It's all about staying on top of your business and your life, and then you can avoid more problems in the future. Global mobility requires attention to local laws. So these big fancy words, the GDPR, the PIDA, and now there's a new one for California enacted this year. This is critical. If you have a website, no matter where you are in the world, you must have a data protection policy. You must have a data protection policy. You can turn around and get sued very easily if you do not have one of these data protection policies. You're probably like, what is a data protection policy? Yeah, I didn't know either until I started working with these. It basically means how you and your company, you and your website handle the data of its users. So especially this is critical if you use credit card information or if someone's paying on your website, this is critical to have on your website. You can use many different tools. You could use AI as a starting point to create a contract for your website, but you still want a licensed attorney to look it over and make sure that there's nothing that you haven't missed. This is, again, I cannot overemphasize this. This is critical to avoid lawsuits in the future for you. You also want to understand the limits of your home country protections. So for a lot of business things, if you're from the US favors businesses. They will give you the benefit of the doubt in the large majority of the time. This simply is not true if you're caught living abroad illegally, if you choose to work with client in person when you're abroad. These protections are not going to apply for you. It's always important to have local counsel. So for example, if I run into an issue while I'm here in Bulgaria, I wouldn't hire an American attorney to help me with a Bulgarian issue. So you always want local counsel to help you to enforce your rights and stop any other potential issues. So at the end of the day, legal preparedness is freedom and protection.